Yeah, so I just wanted to start off by saying thank you so much for reaching out about this movie. I really, really enjoyed it. I found it to be very unsettling, but also by the end very kind of charming and endearing, which is not what I kind of expected heading into it. So yeah, really grateful to have the opportunity to talk to you both. I kind of just wanted to start off. I know it's kind of a routine question, but to pose to you both, John and Kyle, kind of what led to the creation of this movie? What inspired the idea, and how did the film come to fruition?
Yeah, I'll let John. I answered it the last time we did ask this question, so I'll let John answer it this time.
What inspired the film? Well, I know we both like the movie Disturbia. Kyle is certainly, in terms of inspiration, like films, like the tone and kind of the vibe of that. Kyle can speak to that more. Um, but so is the question what inspired the movie? Is that what you're asking? I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll let Kyle pick up a little more on that. But I mean, we wanted to create something that was kind of an adventure for everyone. That was like a roller coaster, a thrill that had unexpected turns and hopefully kept people on, keep you on the edge of your seat in terms of just like not knowing, a little unhinged, like not knowing what's going to happen next. But ultimately, the goal is that it's something that would be, I don't know, like memorable and kind of like, I don't want to say a cult classic. I think everyone hopes their film's a cult classic, but like has that feeling like a takeaway, I guess, at the end where you're like, I feel good after like this movie. Yeah, it's dark and there's some disturbing stuff in there a little bit, but like ultimately there's redemption and hopefully people can walk away from it feeling like, man, that was like actually a fun ride. Like it's a fun movie. I could see that again. Um, but Kyle can speak to more about inspiration specifically for this film. We're both, I think, we have some probably common ground in terms of like the Goonies and Spielbergian type stuff, like 90s adventure films and bit like Jurassic Park and Jaws and Twister and like kind of those more cliche films, but um just yeah, like thriller adventure. I think we went into this more with an attitude of like thriller comedy, and it's
Mm,
probably a bit like thriller horror adjacent,
mm.
and I can see it being a horror film too for sure, but like I think it's hopefully gave you some thrills. Um, and then, but yeah, inspirations, Kyle. I mean, you wrote it, but I know Disturbia was definitely an inspiration.
Yeah,
Um,
Disturbia was really an inspiration for the tone of the movie because it was a movie that I always loved because it balanced that suspense thriller aspect, but also had a lot of situational comedy to it.
Mm.
And so it wasn't like there were necessarily written jokes all the time. A lot of it was from what I've seen behind the scenes and getting to talk to the director of that movie and everything. There's a lot of improvisation from the actors, and that comedy element kind of came through with the casting of Shia LaBeouf. And so the inspiration for Bad Haircut, though, was from a real life barber that I had in college. So that's kind of where this story stemmed from. Was I wanted to basically commit this guy to film. Like he's such a character in real life, and I always thought he belonged in a movie. And so we didn't cast the real life person to play the person, but that the role was very much inspired by this real person that my friends and I used to go to in college. And so Act One of the movie is there's a lot of things in there that really happened, and then it kind of took that and embellished it and took it in a direction that I thought this is what would happen if the worst things would happen, sort of a thing. This kind of how that went.
That's really interesting to kind of extrapolate beyond your actual experiences with an individual. And yeah, I didn't put my finger on Disturbia, but I love that you mentioned that movie. I love that movie. Not enough people talk about that movie. Yeah, so I guess heading into the to Mick's character, I really wanted to ask you, Kyle. I feel like this movie doesn't work without like that performance really kind of grounding the film. And Frankie Ray definitely delivers that performance. He's so unsettling with shades of like Buffalo Bill and long legs and all these different things, but also kind of like his own something very singular about his performance. I was curious throughout watching the movie, but especially come the end of the movie, how much of Mick and the character was kind of on the page written by you, and how much of that was kind of Frankie bringing in aspects of his own performance.
Yeah, well, in terms of the dialogue, a lot of that stuff was improvised. In terms of we would always do everything scripted, but then at the end of every shot, we'd always say, "All right, Frankie, do an artist take," and that something kind of just clicked in his mind when we would do that, and he would just kind of go like he would do things, some things scripted, and then some things would just be totally like unscripted moments, and just this energy came out that was really magnetic, and we were like, yeah, that's every time we did it. We pretty much used all of his artist takes for every shot that we used of him in the movie. But yeah, so but in terms of like the aura and the character, that was all stuff that we talked about ahead of time because it was very based on a real person. So I had a pretty lengthy character description for him, and ultimately just came down to casting the right person, and he was the right person for it, and he just kind of knew what we were looking for, and when he did his audition, it just was like that's what we're going for, and then we kind of dialed it in more from there. Had a week of rehearsals, and when he put on the wardrobe and we started rolling, it was kind of just he kind of slipped into the character, and we were off to the races.
Yeah, I feel like you really like nailed it with that casting, and it sounds like it was kind of a convergence of not only what you were bringing to the table but also his performance. So that's really cool. I really liked in the movie as well, speaking of Mick, that you didn't kind of like, I guess, over explain him. There are like strands of his kind of origin, so to speak, in there, and maybe why he is the way he is. How did you toe that balance? Because I think oftentimes horror movies kind of go awry in that way, right? Of kind of over explaining what's going on or under explaining what's going on. But I think you really hit like a really sweet middle ground here. So I'm curious how you approached, yeah, mixed characterization in that regard.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, again, because it was based on this real person, it was just kind of my recollection, and also what I knew about this person, which was not much. So I didn't really have much of a backstory. And then the things that I did include in Nick's backstory, I wanted it to feel like, is he telling the truth or is he not? Because that's kind of what this person felt like, where it's you never know if they're telling the truth. Some things feel like so far fetched, but then they turn out to be true. And then some things seem like, why would he lie about that? But yeah, he did. And so it's just kind of like I wanted him to feel just like a chameleon, and we never know if he's telling the truth or if he's lying, or if it's a combination of both, or what it is. Just unpredictable.
Yeah, I think unpredictable is a great word to describe him. John, I'm curious. I think a lot of our readers are not only interested in these kind of like big tentpole movies, but also these kind of more unusual kind of indie movies. And I think behind the scenes is always so fascinating. So, I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about maybe some of the challenges that you faced during the production and kind of how you overcame them. I think yeah, it's always interesting to kind of hear those stories of aspects that were or barriers that you were able to overcome.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's definitely a team effort. I mean, we got Jesse is one of the producers as well, and myself and Kyle, and we did a lot together. But me personally, there's a lot of unexpected challenges always at every phase, you know, and every phase you think is going to be like, oh, this one's going to be easier or less challenging, and then it turns out it's just as challenging or more challenging, and that keeps happening. Like pre-product, like getting it funded, pre-production, production, post-production, selling it, like it's all crazy, right? And it's like people always say it's a miracle that a movie gets made, and I think in this case there's probably multiple miracles that we even, you know, but I think a lot of it's just I don't know. Sometimes it feels like you're in battle. I know for Kyle and I, like we were rooming together for weeks in Indiana during sort of the climax of the film, and there was all kinds of stuff going on, and we were getting little sleep, and we were having to overcome all these things, and it's everything from you know, I think what people don't think about too, which is like a big part of this is like, while this was a small production, all things considered, independently funded, not a studio film, it still was, when we had like the party scenes and stuff, there's hundreds and hundreds of people there, right? And even our crew was, for us, this was a kind of a step in a direction where it was a larger budget for us at least. And so just keeping people alive, right? The fundamentals
Mhm.
like fed, like lodging, sanitary when you're out on a cliff in the middle of nowhere. We had like a small village, so it's all these things, the infrastructure, the power, bathrooms, like washing facilities, like for lots and lots of people. And then you're doing night shoots. So then you got to have catering or you got to keep people fed throughout the night, but then we switch to days and a lot of that stuff too is like what you don't think about is managing people relationships.
Mhm.
You've got, we had a great crew, but there's always going to be challenges with people being people. It's tough. Making movies is so hard. So you've got 14, 16 hour, whatever, when things get crazy, a lot of that comes down to managing relationships, you know.
Mhm.
Um, and then just like I said, unexpected, and we have so many stories we don't have time for, I'm sure, of all kinds of things going wrong or just unexpected things popping up and having to overcome them quickly, you know, and adapting. Um, but yeah, so for me, it's just a lot of really a combination of problem solving, managing people and expectations, trying to juggle a lot of different things happening at once. And while we did have like divisions or, different crews, really we were at the helm of this fairly, all things considered. It's like really you're building a company from scratch
Mhm.
and you have a whole bunch of people working for you. And like any company, there's company culture or morale. You've got to keep people excited and happy, even when you're getting beat down to the ground, or you think we're not going to pull this off. Like no one can know that. You got to keep a smile to the best of your ability. You got to, So I don't know if that speaks to what you're talking about, but that's some of
No,
what
definitely. No, I think that's so fascinating. And I guess it adds to more appreciation as a viewer for behind every frame, right? Like you're alluding to that cliff scene or even the party scene. I was amazed by just the scale and scope of that and Kyle, that kind of intricate one take and through all these extras. And yeah, John, I think your words really just uh yeah, I guess yeah, elevate my appreciation of that. So that's phenomenal.
Thanks.
And John, you mentioned a few movies that I kind of got like little strands of too, like the Goonies and things like that. And obviously not in terms of plot necessarily, but there is that kind of like almost coming of age element to this movie, especially in that
Yeah,
kind of like third act. So I'm wondering if like either of you could talk a little bit about that side of things, because I think a lot of these horror films kind of play out without that kind of heart, but your film really does have that kind of grounded heart to it.
thank you, Kyle.
Yeah, I will appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, I think for us, like it was never we weren't trying to ever make a horror film, and I still stand by that. I think it's a thriller comedy, but it's fine if
I
people
know, but
think.
we're talking to people. We're in a horror festival.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
It's
all
not that
that
we
to
don't
say,
like horror movies, though. I
yeah,
want to be clear. I'm not trying
it's
to. Yeah.
all that to say within that, I think if I'd set out to make a horror film, that probably wouldn't have been front of mind to do like a coming of age theme. But because it was kind of centered around like that, trying to strike that Disturbia tone, which very much feels coming of age to me, I think just inherently wanting to have that kind of a story play out, those kind of moments happened, with Billy wanting to get the girl and that kind of being the setup at the beginning and the whole catalyst for everything that happens, and at the end having those kind of redemptive moments and seeing the act three, the friendship kind of those guys come back together and try to take down Mick, sort of a thing. It's um, yeah, I don't know if I ever even thought of it as like coming of age either. It wasn't until hindsight. Even I think it was probably John that mentioned it originally. It feels like said that it feels coming of age in certain ways, which I like because there's a lot of coming of age movies that I love. So I don't know how much of it was really intentional in terms of trying to hit like I want it to be this specific theme in the movie. We just wanted to make something that was fun and was reminiscent of those movies that we grew up with, and I think those influences kind of made their way into the movie in that way, if that makes
I
sense.
think, yeah, I think also Kyle's good at that. Like, I think like the Autumn Girl, like other films he's written and directed, but like in particular, there's a short, The Autumn Girl, that won some awards, and I think is great. People tend to seem to really enjoy that piece from Kyle. And like, I think, there's child actors and that's pretty coming of age for sure, that short in particular. But I think Kyle has got kind of a knack for that. Like, I don't know whether you realize, at least you're good at it. But I think the other side of that too is, you know, during the casting process, we got the actors together and did a cast retreat. So they bonded and became friends like months before we filmed. And luckily, because it could have went south, like we could have had a diva, someone could have hated someone, and it would have been a bad idea, basically. And we were fortunate because it went the other. It was great. and we spent 5 days together, like on a lake, and did all these fun activities and did table reads and all that. But I think because of that, hopefully, like just the idea that they're friends, hopefully it translates as more genuine on screen because they could sort of riff off each other. They did some improv stuff that I think makes it feel a little more, in terms of being funny. We're just fortunate. Those guys are funny. Spencer's so funny. RJ's funny. Nora's funny. Bo's
Bo's
funny.
really
And like
funny.
Bo's very funny too. They're all funny. And that came out during these like early preliminary, these tables reads where they would just laugh. And we saw that. We're like, oh man, thank gosh. Hopefully that'll like translate. But I think just the story in general, because they were because they had that like camaraderie and that relationship, hopefully that helped to sell maybe those relationships and maybe have create more of a feeling that's like, okay, this is authentic or genuine. Because if you don't have that, or it feels like a little bit forced, or the acting's not great, it's like cheesy, right? It's just like everyone's like,
Right.
this is not real and it's stupid. So I'm grateful for our cast. I know, we feel the same way. We lucked out. We put a lot of work into it, but we were fortunate. You know.
Yeah, I don't think there's a weak link there. And you highlight Spencer. I thought he was incredible and kind of like his performance grows throughout in alignment with his character. I did want to touch on something else. So I guess a pet peeve of mine in a lot of movies and shows is kind of overuse or misuse of licensed music. And this couldn't be further from that. I'll just give you like a little preview. I wrote like an entire paragraph in our review about just like how masterful these needle drops are, especially in that third act. There's like three there that were just phenomenal, and like not only
Oh
the
man.
usage of the song, but just like the way they're integrated. So I guess I want to pose that question to you, like what makes a really great like needle drop? How did you do that as opposed to some films that kind of make that pitfall, right? Of kind of having the song overshadow the moment. You guys really had to elevate the moment.
Yeah, no, appreciate it. Thank you. I mean, the soundtrack's really important to us, and we're fortunate. Like
That's good to
we're
hear.
glad you
Thank
like
you.
it. Yeah, really appreciate that. I mean, it all started. I think we had two songs in mind that we knew we wanted to use. I mean, there's a lot of songs in the movie, but there's seven really famous songs, and I knew we wanted to use. I won't. I don't want to say the names. I don't want to spoil all of them, but the opening credits song we knew we wanted to use from the beginning, and then John also knew. He came to me one day with the end credits song, like how the movie's gonna end and how you're gonna feel when it ends. I remember him playing that for me, and we were both like, "Yeah, that's." We knew that for sure going into the movie. But then after that, we're like, well, songs are expensive, and like we never really considered even trying to go beyond that. We weren't even sure if we were gonna be able to get those. But our editor Ben Mills, he during the edit when we watched the first pass that he'd done, he had a lot of those needle drop moments in there, and after we heard that, we couldn't unhear it, and we're like, man, these are terrific. Like really, there were some that we changed out and some that we put in, and we're like, all right, let's do this song, and it kind of opened the floodgates for us incorporating a couple more, and just
Yeah.
yeah, like Ben did a really good job.
It's his fault.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because even like the whole truck going off the cliff sequence, um, that was originally I thought we were going to do some sort of orchestral score, be very dramatic, and then when Ben put in the temp track, we are like, what is he doing? What is this? But then we kept watching, and we were laughing. It was hilarious, and we're like, okay, now this has to be what it is, a song. So
It was
yeah,
originally a different song at that point, but it's a similar song-ish now. Mhm.
yeah. But yeah, we won't say what the songs are necessarily right now, but yeah, that's kind of how that happened, and we just fought to try to keep those in.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I would have loved the movie anyways, but like that just was like the cherry on top. So, real,
We
yeah,
need you
no,
to
thank
come
you.
with us and continue to tell people as we're selling this movie that your feelings on that. I'm going to take that. Thank you,
Yeah,
Frank.
no, absolutely. Feel free to quote me. I
Yeah.
really enjoyed that aspect of the movie, and really all aspects of the movie. Yeah, no, thank you so much, guys, for taking the time out of your, I'm sure, busy schedules to speak with me. Good luck with Fantastic Fest next week and the premiere. I think the way I feel about the movie, I'm sure, is going to mirror a lot of other viewers. It feels like a perfect
Uh,
fit for that festival. And so,
mm.
yeah, just best of luck with not only this film, but moving forward. Definitely be on the lookout for your upcoming projects as well.